Picture the perfect American family: a successful doctor, his beautiful wife working at Mount Sinai Hospital, and their two young children living in a lovely neighborhood. This was the Essa family in February 2005, the embodiment of the American dream that neighbors admired and friends envied. Rosemary and Yazid Essa had everything going for them. Married since 1999, they were even planning for a third child to complete their growing family. But on February 24, 2005, this picture-perfect life would shatter in the most unimaginable way. When Rosemary's family received the call about her sudden death in a car accident, they were devastated. But it was a conversation with her best friend Ava that would transform their grief into something far more sinister. The realization that someone they trusted had betrayed them in the most horrific way possible. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video as we uncover the truth behind this shocking family tragedy. On February 24, 2005, 38-year-old Rosemary Essa began what would become her final day. The devoted mother of two started her morning routine alongside her husband, Dr. Yazid Essa, and their small children in their Cleveland home. Yazid had taken the day off from his medical practice, encouraging his wife to take calcium pills for her bone health before she prepared to leave for an afternoon at the movies with her sister. At 1:53 p.m., Rosemary departed her house, planning to meet her sister for their scheduled outing. During her drive, she placed a phone call to her close friend Ava, mentioning that she felt horrible. The conversation took a disturbing turn as Ava listened to Rosemary's condition rapidly deteriorate over the phone. Rosemary's driving became increasingly erratic as she traveled down Wilson Mills Road. Her vehicle weaved unpredictably before colliding with another car in what appeared to be a minor traffic accident. When emergency responders arrived at the scene, they discovered Rosemary slumped over in her driver's seat, vomiting uncontrollably with her eyes wide open and struggling to breathe. A medical professional who witnessed the accident immediately recognized the severity of her condition. Despite the minor nature of the collision, Rosemary's symptoms suggested something far more serious than typical accident-related injuries. Emergency medical technicians quickly transported her to Hillcrest Hospital, where doctors began intensive treatment efforts. The medical team at Hillcrest Hospital worked desperately to stabilize the previously healthy 38-year-old mother. They attempted intubation procedures and administered various heart rhythm medications, trying to understand what could cause such severe symptoms in someone with no apparent trauma from the accident. Hospital staff found themselves puzzled by Rosemary's critical condition. She showed no signs of significant physical trauma that could explain her deteriorating state. Despite their comprehensive medical knowledge and experience, the doctors couldn't identify what was causing her body to shut down so rapidly. After 40 to 45 minutes of intensive medical intervention, the hospital team's efforts proved unsuccessful. Rosemary Essa was pronounced dead, leaving medical professionals and investigators with more questions than answers. The healthy mother of two had died under mysterious circumstances that defied easy explanation. The minor car accident initially appeared to be a tragic but straightforward case. However, the disconnect between the severity of Rosemary's symptoms and the relatively minor collision began raising concerns among those involved in the initial response. But this seemingly tragic accident was about to reveal dark secrets that would shock everyone who knew the loving family. Rosemary Essa had built a successful career as a passionate and hardworking professional who secured a steady position at Mount Sinai Hospital following her graduation. Her dedication to her work matched her commitment to building a meaningful life filled with love and family connections. In 1995, Rosemary met young physician Yazid Essa, beginning what appeared to be a perfect love story. Yazid came from a Palestinian immigrant family based in Detroit, where his parents owned and operated a grocery store. The young doctor seemed to embody everything Rosemary could want in a life partner. Their relationship progressed naturally toward marriage, with the couple exchanging vows on September 11, 1999. The wedding marked the beginning of what everyone believed would be a lasting and happy union between two successful professionals who shared common goals and values. The Essa family expanded quickly after their marriage. Their son Armin was born in 2000, followed by daughter Lena in 2002. The couple had even begun planning for a third child, demonstrating their commitment to building a large, loving family together. Rosemary's family embraced Yazid immediately upon meeting him. They described him as handsome, nice, warm, and welcoming, qualities that made him easy to accept into their close-knit family circle. There were no red flags or concerns that suggested anything troubling about his character or intentions. The couple established themselves in a lovely neighborhood, presenting the image of the ideal American family. From the outside, they appeared to be the perfect couple. A successful doctor married to his beautiful wife, raising two small children in a comfortable suburban setting. Eva McGregor had been Rosemary's best friend since they were 4 years old, maintaining their friendship through all of life's changes and challenges. Eva had worked as a babysitter for the Essa family, giving her unique insight into their household dynamics and daily life. Those who knew the family saw no indication of problems or tension within the marriage. Yazid and Rosemary seemed devoted to each other and their children, maintaining the facade of domestic happiness that characterized their public image. The Essa household appeared to function smoothly, with both parents contributing to their children's care and development. Friends and family members had no reason to suspect that anything was amiss in what appeared to be an ideal family situation. However, beneath this picture-perfect facade, dark secrets were brewing that would soon shatter this idyllic image forever. Following Rosemary's sudden death, her brother Dominic, who worked as a lawyer, took on the difficult responsibility of informing family members and close friends about the tragic loss. Among those he contacted was Eva McGregor, Rosemary's lifelong best friend who had maintained close ties with the family. During their conversation, Eva shared information that would prove crucial to the investigation. She revealed details about her final phone conversation with Rosemary, including a disturbing revelation about medication Yazid had given his wife that morning. Eva's exact words to Dominic were particularly significant. "I have a weird thing that happened. Rosie was talking to me just before she died, and she was mentioning that Yazid gave her this pill, but she said it just made her feel terrible, so you need to look into that." This statement marked the turning point that transformed the case from an unexplained death to a potential homicide investigation. Dr. Balraj conducted a complete autopsy and toxicology analysis on February 25, 2005, the day after Rosemary's death. The medical examination was thorough and comprehensive, designed to identify any possible cause for the sudden death of an otherwise healthy 38-year-old woman. Unfortunately, the autopsy results proved inconclusive and disappointing for investigators. Despite Dr. Balraj's careful analysis and extensive testing, no clear cause emerged that could explain why Rosemary had died so suddenly and mysteriously. The toxicology screening failed to reveal any obvious substances or conditions that might have contributed to her death. This left investigators feeling frustrated, as though they were missing a crucial piece of evidence that could solve the puzzle of Rosemary's sudden collapse and death. Initially, investigators decided to give Yazid and his family time to grieve, as there was no immediate evidence pointing to foul play. The lack of concrete findings from the autopsy made it difficult to justify treating the case as anything other than an unexplained natural death. However, investigators eventually resumed their inquiry, conducting additional interviews with witnesses and hospital staff. They hoped to uncover overlooked details that might provide new insights into the circumstances surrounding Rosemary's death. During this renewed investigation, detectives noticed concerning aspects of Yazid's behavior following his wife's death. His reaction seemed unusually detached and unemotional for someone who had just lost their life partner and mother of their children. Most disturbing was Yazid's text message announcement of his wife's death. "I just wanted to let you know that Rosie died yesterday in a minor car accident. She will be missed." The casual, almost dismissive tone shocked recipients who expected more emotion from a grieving husband. 2 weeks after Rosie's death, investigators decided to contact Yazid for a voluntary statement. But what they discovered next would transform this mysterious death into a full-blown murder investigation. 2 weeks after Rosemary's death, investigators made the decision to contact Yazid for a voluntary statement at the police station. They hoped this interview might provide additional insights into the circumstances surrounding his wife's mysterious death and fill in gaps from their initial investigation. During the police interview, Yazid discussed Rosemary's routine of taking calcium vitamins for her bone health, confirming Eva's account of the pills he had given her that morning. He appeared cooperative and agreed to allow investigators to collect the calcium supplements from his home for potential evidence testing. When detectives arrived at Yazid's house to collect the calcium tablets, they made some surprising discoveries. They found Margarita Montanas, a daytime nanny, present in the home. More puzzling was learning that Yazid had also hired Michelle Moline as a nighttime nanny for his children. While investigators found these arrangements unusual for a single father so soon after his wife's death, they remained focused on their primary objective of collecting the calcium tablets. The pills appeared normal during initial examination, giving no obvious indication of tampering or contamination. The calcium supplements were sent to a forensic laboratory for comprehensive analysis. Initial testing suggested nothing unusual about the medication, but forensic scientists decided to conduct more detailed examination of each individual pill within the bottle. This decision proved crucial to solving the case. The detailed forensic analysis revealed the most shocking discovery imaginable. 9 pills within the bottle had been carefully tampered with and contained cyanide, a deadly poison that typically wouldn't appear in standard toxicology screenings without specific testing. The discovery of cyanide-laced pills prompted investigators to immediately obtain a search warrant for Rosemary's vehicle. They collected samples from her vomit and seat covers, hoping to find evidence that would confirm their suspicions about poisoning. Laboratory testing of the car samples confirmed investigators' worst fears. Cyanide was indeed found in Rosemary's vomit, providing direct evidence that she had ingested the deadly poison before her collapse and death. The forensic scientist noted that discovering cyanide was extremely rare, stating that most forensic professionals never encounter this poison during their entire careers. The rarity of the substance made its presence particularly significant to the investigation. Following this discovery, the coroner ordered new toxicology screening specifically designed to detect cyanide in Rosemary's system. The results were shocking. 9.1 milligrams of cyanide per liter were found in her blood, which was 3 times higher than levels usually considered fatal. Each tampered calcium pill contained between 600 and 800 milligrams of pure cyanide, an amount far exceeding what would be necessary to cause death. This revelation confirmed that Rosemary's death was not accidental, but represented a calculated and malicious act of murder. Investigators theorized that Yazid's original plan involved Rosemary taking the highway to meet her sister, where the cyanide would take effect while she was driving at 60 miles per hour. This would have caused a high-speed crash that the coroner would likely have ruled as the official cause of death, potentially concealing the poisoning. With this damning evidence in hand, police were ready to arrest Yazid for murder, but they were about to discover that the calculating doctor was already one step ahead of them. Just as police prepared to arrest Yazid for his wife's murder, they received shocking news. The suspect had already disappeared. Once Yazid had voluntarily turned over the calcium tablets for forensic testing, he would have understood that the discovery of cyanide was highly likely, making his eventual arrest inevitable. The timeline of events on March 18th and 19th, 2005, revealed the calculated nature of Yazid's escape plan. Investigators had collected the calcium pills from his house on these dates. And that same evening, Yazid asked Rosemary's sister to watch his children overnight, claiming he had urgent business to attend to. At 4 a.m., Yazid left a carefully crafted voicemail message for Rosemary's family. Speaking in a calm, controlled voice, he explained that his friend's brother had been involved in a terrible car accident in North Carolina and might not survive. He claimed he was traveling there immediately to provide assistance during this crisis. Yazid requested that Rosemary's family care for his children over the weekend, promising confidently that he would return by Monday to resume his parental responsibilities. His tone suggested nothing unusual about the trip, presenting it as a temporary emergency response to help a friend in need. When Monday arrived without any contact from Yazid, Rosemary's worried family members decided to verify his story. They contacted his friend directly, only to receive a shocking response that completely contradicted Yazid's explanation. He had never been to North Carolina, and there had been no car accident involving his brother. This revelation confirmed that Yazid had deliberately fabricated the entire story as cover for his disappearance. Rosemary's family immediately reported him as missing, though it was now clear that his absence was intentional rather than the result of foul play. Dominic conducted a search of Yazid's house and discovered a recently opened passport-style package on the counter. This evidence confirmed that Yazid had not simply gone missing, but had obtained travel documents and deliberately fled the jurisdiction to avoid arrest. Police interrogated Yazid's brother, Fous Essa, who eventually revealed the truth about helping orchestrate the escape. Fous explained that Yazid had provided him with a cover story about needing to leave because he feared people would discover his sexual affairs with the two nannies he had hired for his children. According to Fous, Yazid had also expressed unhappiness in his marriage and his desire to leave Rosemary permanently. This information provided insight into potential motives while confirming that the escape had been planned rather than spontaneous. The escape route proved sophisticated and well-planned. Detroit to Windsor, then Toronto to Cyprus, and finally Cyprus to Beirut, Lebanon. The choice of Lebanon was strategic, as the country had no extradition treaty with the United States, making it an ideal refuge for fugitives seeking to avoid American justice. Fous had enlisted assistance from a cousin with smuggling experience to help coordinate this dangerous but ultimately successful escape plan. The operation demonstrated careful planning and knowledge of international law regarding extradition treaties. While investigators and the FBI scrambled to piece together his escape route, Yazid was already settling into his new life in Lebanon, confident that he had successfully gotten away with murder. On April 22, 2005, the county coroner officially ruled that 38-year-old Rosalie Essa had died from acute cyanide poisoning. This determination led to a grand jury indictment of Yazid for aggravated murder, but prosecutors faced a significant obstacle. Their suspect had already established himself in Lebanon, which maintained no extradition treaty with the United States. Yazid had successfully transformed himself during his time in Lebanon, adopting the new identity of Maurice Khalif. He dramatically altered his physical appearance, wearing glasses and adopting a sharp, sophisticated look, designed to avoid recognition by anyone who might be searching for the fugitive doctor. The fugitive quickly established a new romantic relationship with Nilas Suki, a 38-year-old schoolteacher. This development demonstrated how rapidly Yazid had moved on from his wife's murder, showing no apparent grief or remorse for the crime that had forced him to flee his home country. Most disturbing was Yazid's apparent enjoyment of his newfound freedom and his shocking lack of remorse for his actions. He didn't attempt to hide his crime from anyone he met in Lebanon, and seemed to relish his new identity as a fugitive from American justice. Yazid's behavior in Lebanese nightclubs became particularly concerning to those around him. When he consumed alcohol, he would become boisterous and boldly announce to other patrons, "You know they say I'm a killer. Ha! I could be a killer." These statements demonstrated his cavalier attitude toward the serious charges he faced. His patron in Lebanon eventually felt compelled to warn Yazid to be quiet and stop being so bold about his criminal activities. Even the person helping him maintain his refuge was concerned that his reckless behavior might attract unwanted attention from authorities. Yazid created a new email address that reflected his brazen attitude toward his fugitive status: fugitive@hotmail.com. He used this address regularly for correspondence, showing no attempt to maintain discretion about his situation or location. Meanwhile, back in Cleveland, the FBI and local police were carefully monitoring his activities through various intelligence channels. They remained patient, waiting for the perfect opportunity to apprehend him if he ever made the mistake of leaving Lebanon's protective borders. American authorities found themselves frustrated by the legal limitations preventing Yazid's return. They could only issue plea agreements hoping he would voluntarily return to answer for his wife's murder, though they understood he had no intention of surrendering himself. The 3-month head start Yazid had gained through his carefully planned escape allowed him to settle down comfortably and effectively disappear into his new identity. His confidence in his escape plan seemed unshakable during this period of freedom. But Yazid's confidence in his perfect escape plan would prove to be his downfall when, on October 7, 2006, he made a fateful decision to leave Lebanon's protective borders. On October 7, 2006, Yazid made a critical error in judgment that would end his life as a fugitive. He boarded a plane bound for Cyprus, leaving the safety of Lebanon's borders and triggering the chain of events that American authorities had been anticipating for months. The FBI immediately alerted Cyprus authorities that Yazid was likely traveling with fraudulent documentation. American intelligence had been monitoring his activities and movements, waiting patiently for exactly this type of opportunity to coordinate his capture with international partners. Cyprus authorities agreed to cooperate with the FBI's request and prepared to detain Yazid upon his arrival at the airport. When he landed in Cyprus looking completely different from his previous appearance, local police were ready to act on the information provided by American law enforcement. Cyprus police, acting on the FBI's tip, approached Yazid and requested his fingerprints to verify his identity. Despite his fake passport and dramatically altered physical appearance, this basic identification procedure would quickly reveal his true identity to law enforcement. The fingerprint analysis confirmed what authorities already suspected. The man traveling under false documents was indeed Dr. Yazid Essa, wanted for the murder of his wife in Cleveland, Ohio. This verification gave Cyprus police every legal justification they needed to place him under arrest. However, the legal situation proved more complex than initially appeared. While Cyprus maintained an extradition agreement with the United States, this treaty contained a significant limitation. It did not apply to cases where the accused might face the death penalty. Yazid had originally been charged with aggravated murder, a crime that could potentially carry capital punishment under Ohio law. This technicality made Cyprus authorities reluctant to approve his extradition to the United States without additional guarantees regarding his sentencing. Complex negotiations began involving the U.S. State Department and Cyprus legal authorities. Cuyahoga County Prosecutor Bill Mason was required to provide specific assurances that the death sentence would not be sought in Yazid's case, regardless of the outcome of his trial. This legal technicality provided Yazid's defense attorneys with ammunition to fight his extradition through the Cyprus court system. They utilized every possible delay tactic and legal challenge available to prevent his return to face justice in American courts. The legal battle continued for almost 3 years, frustrating American authorities and Rosemary's family members who sought closure. Yazid's lawyers employed numerous appeals and procedural challenges to extend his stay in Cyprus as long as possible. Finally, in January 2009, after prosecutors' formal commitment not to seek capital punishment, Yazid was extradited back to Cleveland. The nearly 4-year legal process had ended, allowing prosecutors to pursue justice for Rosemary's murder. With Yazid finally back on American soil, prosecutors faced the monumental challenge of building a case based primarily on circumstantial evidence, poisoned pills, and a fugitive's own brazen admissions. The trial of Yazid Essa commenced on January 9, 2010, in a Cleveland courtroom, marking the beginning of the legal process that would finally determine justice for Rosemary's murder. Prosecutors faced the challenging task of proving guilt using primarily circumstantial evidence rather than direct eyewitness testimony to the crime. From the outset, Yazid's defense attorneys implemented a strategy claiming insufficient evidence against their client. They argued that the state's case relied heavily on suggestion rather than concrete proof, emphasizing that there was no strong testimony directly linking Yazid to the act of poisoning his wife. The defense team characterized the prosecution's case as entirely circumstantial in nature, with no hard evidence, no physical evidence, no scientific evidence whatsoever to connect Yazid Essa to the crime. This approach attempted to create reasonable doubt about his guilt, despite the suspicious circumstances surrounding Rosemary's death. Defense attorneys proposed an alternative theory suggesting that someone else had added cyanide to the calcium pills with intent to kill Rosemary, while Yazid remained completely unaware of this sabotage. They specifically suggested that one of Yazid's mistresses, motivated by jealousy about his marriage, might have independently poisoned Rosemary. However, the defense team proved unable to support this alternative theory with solid evidence or proof. Their speculation about other potential suspects lacked the substantive evidence necessary to convince jurors that someone other than Yazid was responsible for the murder. The prosecution responded by calling 80 witnesses to systematically build their case against Yazid. This comprehensive approach demonstrated the extensive investigation that had been conducted and the multiple angles from which evidence pointed toward the defendant's guilt. The most devastating testimony came from Yazid's own brother, Fus, whose evidence severely damaged the defense's credibility. In a dramatic courtroom exchange, Fus testified that Yazid had directly confessed to the crime, stating unequivocally, "He said that he put the cyanide in the caps." Prosecutors systematically dismantled Yazid's various cover stories, presenting them as a series of failed plans. Plan A: high-speed automobile accident. Plan B: random product tampering. Plan C: girlfriend killed my wife so she could be with me. This presentation highlighted the calculated nature of the crime and subsequent cover-up attempts. The prosecution emphasized strong evidence linking Yazid to the murder, including testimony about his bragging behavior while living as a fugitive in Lebanon. These admissions demonstrated consciousness of guilt and lack of remorse for his actions. On March 9, 2010, after days of intense testimony and heated legal arguments, the jury delivered their verdict. The formal reading stated, "We, the jury in this case, being duly impaneled and sworn, do find the defendant Yazid Essa guilty of aggravated murder." Yazid received a sentence of life in prison, without the possibility of parole for 20 years. The courtroom scene included emotional moments as Rosemary's parents embraced, experiencing both relief that justice had been served and profound sadness remembering their daughter's unfulfilled dreams of expanding their family, leaving 2 young children to grow up without either parent due to one man's calculated betrayal.